we talked about XRP. We talked about it XRP for some time, right? And finally, we have more confirmation exactly as I predicted. What's going on, guys? I know I'm super sleepy. I look sleep deprived like I haven't slept for 5 days because I haven't. The markets have been absolutely fantastic for crypto overall, and I am, very happy to hear that. But BlackRock spot ETF could bring in trillions. Now, this is something that I've been very vocal about. BlackRock spot ETF. So we are live today, and BlackRock spot ETF is actually getting closer by the minute, which is an insane improvement to where XRP was 1 year ago, where it barely got approved. That's why you're gonna need some XRP, at least in my non-financial opinion. But anyway, let's just start a video because right now XRP has broken all limits and it's probably gonna go further ahead once we get a listing, potentially in September, and BlackRock following a bit later, most likely, or maybe even they're gonna join September with the other listings.
Spot XRP and Solana ETF, the block put out a hit piece saying that BlackRock wasn't interested in this. Now today, they're being called out on a massive scale. Let's go ahead and find out what's going on.
So I don't feel like they were never interested. I mean, they said they weren't interested, but are they really going to say yes? They said the same for Ethereum. They said, no, we're not going to list it. And immediately the next month they list it. So yeah, same with Robinhood. They said they might not list some coins. Immediately in a few months they list them, right? And this is what is very common in crypto. They cannot reveal everything. Maybe they're waiting for regulation, approvals, whatever it is, and they can't talk about it. And I feel like that most people fail to miss that out, that regulation takes such a big part in today's listings, especially ETFs.
And what's to be expected? A BlackRock insider says, yes, he's putting it all on the line that a spot XRP ETF is coming. We're going to get into this and some more information in this video. A lot of XRP.
Of course, it's coming. It's just that we're waiting for the biggest one, which is from BlackRock. Again, this would be like 90% of the size right now. And what we're seeing right now is just the US ones, like bigger, still big exchanges, but we really need to see it push forward with BlackRock if we want to see XRP reach 5.
Content. We're going to take a look here at towards the end here with some Bitcoin maxis. Can't stop talking about XRP. We got to talk about this, right? So here is the correction from Marty Party. After several conversations, this is verified as false. The story was either made up by the block journalist or taken out of context with bias. Both Solana and XRP ETFs are in discussion with BlackRock. Timing cannot be confirmed. Deadline is October to file. Here is the article that spread the false signal. Nate Grossi this is a verified nonsense from the block. XRP and spot ETFs on BlackRock applications are definitely on the table. This fake news was fabricated to all Ripple and Solana investors. Unfollow the block and definitely block their reporter for the win. So spicy. So here was the article that was put out by Sarah Wynn.
Ripple's year-long lawsuit coming to an NFX, or doesn't the XRP ETF race? Like, this is why we've been pushing for an XRP ETF race. Because once that is over, it is literally sky high from there, right? So we have been begging for the lawsuit to be over because this is what really affects the XRP prices.
So this is who this person is right here for the win. And it appears she's getting a lot of hate. Just to give you some more context around this story, the viral story from the block claiming BlackRock had officially filed for or confirmed plans to launch XRP or Solana spot ETFs is not accurate. And has been widely
like even Solana as of August 10th. Of course, Solana is still going through regulation changes as well. So why would they list it now? Makes no sense, right? Nate Geraci has stated that when he believes BlackRock will eventually file XRP and SOL ETFs, there's no confirmation or official filing yet. The October SEC simply the regulatory window which such applications should be submitted. That's exactly what I've been talking about. They aren't in a rush until the SEC does its due part in September, which is what I'm very vocal on this channel, right? And what I'm very hopeful.
Bunked by multiple credible sources and market reports. BlackRock has not filed for any spot ETF applications for XRP or Solana as of August 10th, 2025. The company clarified that there's no immediate plans to offer these ETFs, and the rumors of official filings or approvals, such as those spread by fake Delaware filings and certain media outlets, were either fabricated or grossly taken out of context, ETF expert Nate Grossi has stated that while he believes BlackRock will eventually file for a spot XRP and Solana ETFs, there is no communication or official filings just yet.
Of course, why would they tell the news that if they're going to make their own market team? They're $1 trillion company. It makes no sense. Why would they just suddenly like say to a random news event who asks them, yeah, sure, we're going to list it at this and this date? It makes absolutely no sense why they would do that, right? They will wait for the right moment and they will probably launch $5 million, $10 million marketing campaign first before they even launch that. It makes total sense. It doesn't make sense to tell, a news reporter here, hey, we're going to launch it, even though the SEC hasn't approved the other ETFs. We're going to wait if the others get approved first and then, build up our credibility. It makes total sense for the BlackRock, right? They're going to let the others do the hard work first for them before they actually go and try to get approved as well. It makes total sense, guys. And smash that like button if you haven't already.
The October SEC deadline is simply the regulatory window for when such applications could be submitted, but nothing has been verified or announced regarding an actual BlackRock filing. So it looks like October should be a time where we're going to find out if and when spot XRP ETFs will be approved. And if BlackRock is thinking about getting into either XRP or Solana, that's why
of course they will get into XRP or Solana because there's a lot of money involved. They're just going to see if that volume matches the hype. So why do they list Ethereum is also because they get a lot of money from holding these ETFs. ETFs cost money for them. And if it gets approved, again, it could be easy money, trillions pumping, right? But we got to see, will this be the correct move?
Time frame that they would need to file. So this is an evolving story, guys. I'm trying to keep up with it as we go here. And, as there is corrections in the news, I will bring those corrections live on this channel. Obviously, I feel like one of those things, at the dealerships, outside of the dealerships with the error and they're flopping like this. That's how it feels like right now. And so here's Nate Grossi. If you want to follow his channel, you can. He's the president of Nova DS Wealth, host of ETF Prime, co-founder of ETF Institute, and contributor. And he is one of the insiders that has been giving us a lot of information.
To see this before filing for iShares XRP ETF, I'll own it if I'm wrong. Makes 0 sense for them to ignore crypto assets beyond Bitcoin and ETH, especially, considering how much XRP has trading volume, almost as much as Ethereum. That's a lot of money coming in, right? If they get it posted. They're basically saying Bitcoin and Ether are the only ones that will have value. Bold. So they're saying that XRP, if they don't list it, they're saying only Bitcoin and Ethereum are ever going to survive. And I don't think that. I think, XRP has proven itself to be around for many more years. Now, that's the big part here is BlackRock, listing it could, in fact, bring millions of new buyers to XRP. Nobody's talking about how many people and how big this is. This is literally a game changer. So what happened on Ethereum being approved? We saw a 25% increase. And again, Ethereum is a much bigger crypto. We have more trading volume, but in order to get 25%, you need much more money in, which is absolutely insane how much XRP could grow.
About a possible BlackRock spot ETF for XRP and other assets. Now, he believes, and he's putting his reputation on the line here. He says, yes, I think BlackRock was waiting to see this before filing for an iShares XRP ETF. I'll own it if I'm wrong. In my opinion, it makes 0 sense for them to ignore crypto assets beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum. Otherwise, they basically are saying that Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only ones that will ever hold value, which would be very, very bold. We know that Bitcoin is now a store of value because that is where all of the Bitcoin maxis now have put that. When we're talking about real utility, obviously Ethereum and XRP has its own.
And also the big thing, if they list the XRP ETF, imagine they need to actually own this XRP, which means they could be buying in billions of XRP, or at least millions, if not billions, which is an absolute mega pump. They need to physically own this if they are selling this to investors. So yeah, lots of money that they would buy it, not just, new investors coming in. This is why ETFs are such a hype thing, is because you basically have to buy the prices of XRP right now to sell it back to users.
Use cases, a lot of institutions and people are very interested in those assets. Now, 1,300 ETFs have launched since the beginning of last year. 10 out of the top 20 are crypto related, including the top 4 overall. 5 spot Bitcoin ETFs, 2 spot Ethereum ETFs, 2 master or MSTAR ETFs, and 1 leveraged ETH ETF. Here are the inflows. It is phenomenal. You don't think BlackRock is looking at the
Let's take a look. Whoa, that's a lot of inflows. So yeah, I beat, again, BlackRock could be probably on top of this. This is the thing. BlackRock, you know, posting this, I beat or whatever they have, is literally the most important factor. Maybe not as big as Bitcoin ETFs, but still so many inflows, billions coming in, right?
XRP, Solana, as well as 2 index products as of last Friday. I'm looking to track the top 10 crypto assets globally. And so for us, really, it all comes down to giving investors this optionality and this level of choice where they can express their views on certain assets and use the ETF as a vehicle to do so in a really, like I mentioned earlier, low cost, safe, and transparent way.
Awesome.
We certainly are seeing demand.
Just to give you a little bit more information on what he's talking about here. So the global investment in XRP ETFs to date, this is giving you the incomplete picture here. Futures-based XRP ETFs, mostly US, as of August 2025, the combined capital flows into futures-based Solana and XRP ETFs globally is around $1 billion since their initial launches earlier in 2025. The majority of these products are futures backed and have been introduced in the US exchanges since April and May 2025. Internationally,
yeah, so right now with the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs hype dying down, that's actually good because people will be looking for the next ETF listing. And again, it will not be Bitcoin or Ethereum. It will be XRP being listed everywhere at once. And again, when you have everywhere at once, this could be the next big thing. Again, we saw it launch in Brazil, April 2025, and it went up in value. At least $1 billion as of August 2025 with combined future-based assets. But US is where the real money is, not Brazil, not Canada, ETFs, USA. Just let that sink in.
Some physically backed XRP products, such as the 21 shares AXRP ETF in Switzerland and proposals in Canada, have existed for several years. But their total amount of asset figures are modest. And so it's giving us an example of 21 shares XRP ETP, electronically traded product, right? We have ETFs and ETPs. Globally, ETPs are just more popular, electronically traded products. In the US, ETFs, electronically traded funds, those have become really the norm. So just to give you those two differences so you understand what we're talking about here, it says XRP ETPs, approximately 40 to 60 million assets under management based on recent Europe market data. Going deeper here, direct institutional investment, XRP has also recently attracted $200 million in institutional investment via.
So they got $200 million extra, which is lots of money, right, coming in. But everyone is building on XRPL, and you should too. And look at this. All of these big banks are joining in. So, man, you probably heard at least one of them, right? So a very big pump could be happening once these get out of testnet. Right now they are in testing phases. They're in very early phases before they get listed.
In-kind contributions largely motivated by anticipated ETF approval.
Have a great day. Having a good day. Why do you need 300, 3,300 saying you need a certain amounts vary? Well, the thing I'm hyped about most is the actual listing, right? That's happening in October. This is what really is happening. The economy is getting better. The whole system is getting better. And look what happened 1 year ago. XRP was 20 cents and it got scooped up so fast overnight the price doubled. So it's going to be harder and harder to actually afford XRP, like 1,000 XRP. So yeah, you can never get it for 1 cent anymore at this price point.
Finding futures-based US ETFs with allocated internationally physically backed ETPs and a major disclosed institutional injections. Expected US inflows, right? We talked about this a lot on this channel. There is a analyst at JP Morgan that believes the first 12 months could see 3 to 8 billion.
So I feel like also the long-term effects of of this institutional investment nobody's talking about. XRP getting listed is not just going to create one pump, it's going to create a sustainable long-form XRP pump for this. So yeah, more money pumping in.
Dollars coming into new XRP inflows. Remember, when they create these funds, They are basically selling shares of the funds to people. As they're selling those, they're buying XRP off the market to fund those products. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you have this new demand, a surge in demand for these products, they're going to be buying XRP off the
Seemingly, XRP is going to be its own ecosystem.
open market. That's going to create some type of flywheel effect, and that is where we're going to see a market cap multiplier. Remember, we're looking at anywhere between 100 and 600x depending on inflows and outflows. That could be a big deal here. So $1 billion with a 100x multiplier is 100 billion in market cap. A 500x multiplier would be 500 billion in market cap. So could you imagine getting like $3 or $5 billion and having that 100x or 500x multiplier? We could be into the trillions of market cap for XRP in the blink of an eye.
That's good. I really like his, positivity. The issue with getting like 100 million or 1 trillion is a lot of people will still sell on the way out. A lot of people will sell when XRP hits $10. So you need way more inflows. So that's something I wanted to add for a Crypto Sensei video. Overall, it's going to be like hard to get here to 1 trillion without people selling.
Time and time again, I'm going to stand by it. JP Morgan analyst projects 4 to 8 billion. Other sources mention moderate 3 to 6 billion. Regardless, we'll take it. It's billions. Let's keep going. Riz says the legal shackles are off.
Yeah, so anything is good.
Let's play this.
What is really working in crypto at this moment? What is the biggest utility that we have at this moment in time in crypto?
I think, going back to, where we started out over a decade ago and really solving the cross-border payment, the payment challenge, enabling banks and financial institutions to move money around the globe is a real, even in 2025 today, it's still quicker for me to get on a plane and fly that cash to my aunt in Australia than it is to send an international wire. And so we are really kind of breaking down barriers, enabling these financial institutions to give their customers a much better experience. And whether or not that's through stablecoins or through XRP, being able to do that on a truly global basis, I think that is a transformation.
Literally, Live TV even mentioned XRP. They wouldn't even touch it, in last 5 years on the TV. It wasn't mentioned at all, except on YouTube, which is pretty amazing. And they're mentioning XRP as a payment system, next to stablecoins. So it's actually a pretty big competitor.
Shift in terms of how we think about traditional finance.
Remember, so with Bitcoin, you have a lot of questions, right? Especially from like the European Central Bank and other central banks in Europe wondering, is Bitcoin being used for money laundering or all kinds of kind of shadier things? That's why they don't really want to touch Bitcoin specifically. So you look at something like XRP, the central banks have all tested this technology. They know what it does. They know how it can enhance their capabilities to move value in between countries at the snap of a finger for little to no cost. If that doesn't have value in the future financial system, I don't know what does at this point, right? Yes, you have Swift GPI that has sped up.
I feel like people still are forced to use wire transfer, right? Pay $15 for a wire transfer or $10. That's absolutely crazy. $15 like for sending, and then it takes 2 days to arrive. And just recently this year, we abolished checks. We abolished we tried to get rid of them. Again, this was something that was used 2 centuries ago. So XRP is probably going to replace that and bring tons of money in.
Messaging and settlement, usually either in the first maybe hour or in the first 24 hours, but you still have an enormous cost that comes along with it. Banks are going to be looking at the old system or the new system. Do I save a ton of money and go with the new system, or do I keep having to pay these outlandish fees and go with the Swift system? I think it's going to be pretty obvious what some of these financial institutions are going to do and what their new business models are going to look like. So Bitcoin maxis, love to talk about XRP. We appreciate.
So get ready for instant payment transfers, and they are going to be powered by XRP around the world. Still the SEPA takes 1 day to 2 days. That's crazy to me. Hopefully we get XRP soon, and that's what would really pump up its price. Especially if banks would be forced to buy XRP. That would be pretty funny.
All the support that they have given our way, and it's just makes for good content. So I appreciate you. This says Bitcoin maxis can't stop talking about XRP. You better understand what you're holding. XRP is like Google in its early days. Let's play it.
Cross-border payments almost instantly. without delays, without the fees of traditional banking. They can process billions of dollars in volume at a fraction of the current cost. Also, Trump has just signed the Genius Act, and that has moved, essentially it's taken their ability to utilize their technology, that's taken it from questioning stage to it's doable now, so there's a lot to that. I'm not going to get into it, but they've also recently applied for a bank license, which would allow them to settle payments with the Federal Reserve directly. So that would even intensify this ability to be this answer to the problem, right? So cross-border payments were at 190 trillion in 2023. So that's how much money was being sent between borders in 2023. Some have estimated that number is going to jump to 290 trillion, 100 trillion more by 2030. So there's going to be a huge, additional market for cross-border payments. And so somebody that could do it faster with less fees, it has a lot of market to cover, a lot of ground to cover. So here, this in summary, if we're in the early stages of crypto, there's going to be major foundational players. I believe Bitcoin is one of them. I think it's proven to be, and that they're going to outlast the rest. Think about back to the early stages of the internet in 1990, and think about Google, think about Yahoo. And obviously Yahoo is kind of fun. They've been slowly chipping away at their foundation over the years and been making stupid decisions, and they're falling, but Google, there have been major players. Well, I don't know. We're not going to get into that. That's just the research that I've done. It's kind of old now, but when it comes to Yahoo, is that they're not making good decisions. But there have been major players in the internet. There's going to be major players, essentially pillars in the crypto world. I believe XRP is one of them. XRP is currently the third largest cryptocurrency. And so it's like you've got Bitcoin, and I think Ethereum is number 2, and then XRP is number 3. And so
why don't these people invite somebody that knows this stuff onto their show to give them better information? Like XRP's number 3, Ethereum's number 2, Bitcoin's number 1. Yeah, just look at CoinMarketCap. That's some really good data that you guys are sharing here. Anyways, listen.
I feel like the point these guys are trying to make is every single coin will have its own utility, and XRP is going to do with the banks. There's going to be other coins that might work with, probably Amazon, but XRP is going to be known for having, being the one that does the payment transfers, while Bitcoin might be named as the one with store of value. That's the real difference right now that we are seeing with XRP. And it's a very, very bullish sentiment. Everyone is happy about XRP. I don't know one person that was calling its crash. It's not like the same effect as with Terra Luna Classic. This is when XRP will